this lesson, the you lesson, is about interpersonal relationships one-on-one. So the goal here is to talk about things that are positive in interpersonal relationships and things that get in the way. We're going to emphasize empathy in this lesson, understanding what it is and how it's used between people. And they're going to work on a skill that's vital. I'm checking to see if you're all doing it right now, which is listening. We're doing pretty well on it. So before the lesson, you want to send the lesson to the teacher along with the newsletter so they can take a look at that. In the preparation section in the newsletter, it talks about empathy versus sympathy, so you'll see a note on that here. You can take a look at that. And then the things that you'll need in the classroom are your lesson. There's a video on empathy, and then there's PowerPoint that supports the how we see others activity. So those three things: lesson, you need the video, and you need the PowerPoint. Oh, sorry, 4 things. Paper. Okay, and you'll see that when we get to it. And then reviewing the ABC books related to this lesson, and there's 2 in the appendix. Okay, so the starter is just a 5 minutes of reintroducing yourself. You want to remind them about any agreements that you had, how you'll behave towards each other. Maybe it was raising hands, paying attention, not talking over each other, whatever things came up. I had a great list in 8th grade and I kept it. And then remind them about confidentiality. Then we're going to ask them for a debrief on last month. We'll do that each month. So last month we talked about me, and you might want to ask them, did they have any further thoughts or noticings on what shapes them as a person? And let them give you a few answers. You might want to ask them, did anyone find a spark that maybe they weren't aware of before? Okay. Did the word spark help you think a little differently about what interests you? So take a few minutes and let them think about any findings since last time. You're hoping that maybe after the lesson, while they're riding their bike home, they had a little aha that they might want to share. And then you draw a large circle, again, the me, you, us, if you did that last time, and now you're pointing to the you. So you'll transition from last time we talked about me, this time we're talking about you, interpersonal relationships between 2 people. The next section is an activity. Some of you, did anybody do 6th grade last year? This is activity from last year, so you might recognize it. So we're starting at a superficial level, hopefully a fun, sort of superficial level, getting them thinking about how we interact with each other. And this one is about first impressions. Right. So we're going to look at the difference between first impressions and taking time to get to know someone, to notice that really understanding someone takes time and interest. And you will need these, what I'm calling, they look just like this in the cupboard. They have this green index card on them. You will need these stories. There's 2 sets of 4, because you could have up to 32 students in the class, and if you divide them up into groups of 4, you might have 8 groups. And then also included is the real stories, just for backup, and I noted in case you don't have a PowerPoint, in case there's a technical failure, I thought you might need to wing it with those.
So those will literally be on the PowerPoint off of
These are literally on the PowerPoint, but in case something happens there, you know, you never know. I had a sub, the sub didn't have a computer, blah, 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 blah. We were able to borrow one from a teacher, but you never know what's going to happen. You might not have technology, so at least you could hold this up and walk around the room and tell them.
Can I confess I could never use the technology in the classroom?
Well, then feel free to use this if you want to.
I just always have, I can't get on the network, or the teacher can't get on the network. The overhead is the only thing that works consistently. So
okay.
I just don't even try.
Okay.
Great.
Because it'll eat up 20 minutes of the class
video,
trying to get a video to play.
Right.
Were you able to show the video?
I didn't even try this time. The last time I went, because, I spent so long on the introduction, like remember Project Cornerstone, and I hadn't prepared the teacher, and I can't get on the network.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So the teacher, so this time, send them the link, the video link, and they'll be able to display it for you.
Yeah, they can do it now.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Okay, but so just for the viewers at home, the paper part we're going to pass to the kids. There's a paper section, the video, PowerPoint paper.
Okay, I'm not there yet, so
Oh,
slow down.
okay.
Okay, so you've divided them into groups, and then each group, you're gonna give them their instructions. They're going to get a story. Okay, so it's a picture of some people and questions. Each group's gonna get a story. Some may have the same story. When they're in their group and they have their story, they're gonna answer these questions in their head. Right, so it's, who are these people? For instance, this one is, who are they? What are they doing in this picture? What kinds of school activities do you think they're involved in? How did they meet? So we're going to take a minute and answer this in their head. Come up with their story in their head. Then the group is going to talk together for a few minutes and share their stories, but agree upon one to share with the class. So this is going to be their story, what these people are. All right? They need to pick one person to present to the class and to tell the story. Okay? So you give them their time, and now you've passed this out, and they're working on this. And then they come up with their story, and they have their presenter. Then, in the PowerPoint, it goes like this. So if you have the PowerPoint, there we go. So go back one. So what you could do if you have the PowerPoint is project this up on the screen and invite the groups that have story one to tell their story. Okay? And then, okay, now we're going to reveal the real one. So get the PowerPoint, you can do that. Otherwise, you can hold this up.
And that's why I left the picture because my iPad didn't open the PowerPoint for some reason.
Okay.
Smart.
So then you can reveal, well, here's the real story behind these guys. These guys won a global science fair. Kiara Judge, Sophia Healy Throw, and Emmer, that has to be a typo. Packy. They're from Ireland. They beat 5,000 entries from 90 different countries. Then you go to the next group that had story 2, and everybody can see what were the questions they were answering, and then you reveal, have them present, then you have them reveal, she's a shark attack survivor, okay, and give them the real story. And then have the groups that had story 3, next one, Netta, tell their stories, and then reveal, here's the real story, and then same with 4, next one. Have them reveal, say their stories, and the next one. Okay. So the point here is that, well, actually the point you're going to make is when you debrief. So after you've done that, you're going to ask them a couple of questions. What did you notice about first impressions? How do we make assumptions about people? Is that, it could be positive, the things they come up with. It could be negative. A lot of first impressions are very useful, right? Maybe not. Maybe they totally take you off track. Let them explore that a little bit. And then you can ask them also, have they experienced a time when they prejudged someone? And then later found out I was totally off track. I was wrong. I really didn't understand you. Yeah. The ABC book related to this is at the bottom. It's Enemy Pie, and there's detail about that in the appendix. So that's the first superficial activity. Now, the next one is about empathy. So the objective here is to define and understand empathy and allow students to discuss what it is and why it's important to personal relationships.
Amy, sorry, they had a question.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do correctly. She was asking about the book Covio, but it could be linked to it.
How come you like to mention the book if you don't read the book?
Because they link to it, they relate to it.
How can I know the book from past elementary?
Yes, yes. And how half the class, I know for both my classes, at least half the classes haven't, so it's kind of registered, and the other half is like, it's interesting when you, all the kids, even from Rolling Home, when they don't have anything to talk about the book, they do not read the book and stuff like that.
So I just want to clear, my classes did not have much of a connection to Project Cornerstone. So I think it's totally dependent. Some of them have a connection, some of them could barely remember, or just weren't exposed to it, so.
Yeah, I agree with Anna Maria, because one of my sixth grade, the first class I did, just 2 kids in the class had Cornerstone. So the rest
Wow.
didn't
Yeah,
have.
I was surprised by how
Yeah.
few kids.
Because I think now, because different school kids are coming to Rolling Stone, the Campbell Middle and also, I don't know how they've grouped their classes, but only
Yeah.
2 kids. And they were from Marshall Inn, because I knew them from Marshall Inn.
Right.
So,
Kids from Capri didn't. have
yeah, they
any-
didn't have any, or even I don't know about the Campbell Middle also.
At least they said that.
Oh, okay.
So it's good information all around, right?
Yep.
That's just
Yeah.
all about the relatedness of you with their reader, your students.
Right, so we just did an activity that was a little bit about judging a book by its cover, right? Now, let's look a little bit more deeply how we relate to each other. At this point, you could ask a student volunteer to come up. The point here being that as much as it makes sense to, and that you can engage the students in their own learning, whether that's physically doing something or saying things, the more invested they might be in that lesson. So if it's appropriate, you could ask somebody to come up and make a list on the whiteboard. Also, as a note, I included in preparation, we might use a whiteboard in every lesson, it's kind of likely, so I included ask the teacher for whiteboard space ahead of time. Like when I sent my note, I said, Mr. Santana, is it possible we could use whiteboard space, and I'm gonna need about 5 feet worth.
It's a good idea.
So if it worked, okay, if not, we can figure it out.
Is that on this piece of paper?
It's on the preparation
Oh, okay, good.
section. All right, so you're gonna ask them, when you meet someone, what is it about the way that they treat you that you appreciate? What do you appreciate about how somebody interacts with you? And you'll take some answers and you might get things like, they helped me with a project, or they asked a question about the sport I was doing, or they were nice. They smile when I speak to them, make eye contact.
They eat my food. Thank you, Chai Tolly. It's delicious.
And make
This is what you're missing, viewers at home. Wait, can I get it in there? Oh, I
they make
can't.
noises while they eat my food. So you're gonna have this list up here of positive things, things that make you feel appreciated. And you can relate that to the video they're about to see. So what you might find interwoven in all of these things up here is something called empathy. And we're gonna watch a video about empathy. So cue teacher, who should hopefully have it already queued up, and they'll show this video. Are we gonna watch it? The video? Yeah. Excellent.
Okay.
Now, I'll warn you guys, this video, the speaker is a little bit fast. That was the downside of it. The messages are really good.
The importance of empathy. We all live in our own version of reality. A reality that is limited by our senses, our temperament, and our own experiences. It is the only reality we will ever truly know. But it is crucial to our personal development, our relationships, and to society itself that we make the effort to try and experience other people's realities as well. This is done through empathy. Simply stated, empathy is an active attempt to understand another person's perspective, their emotions, and in essence, their reality. We are social animals, and our ability to communicate and understand each other's emotional states is key to maintaining our relationships. So it is little wonder that the ability to empathize is hardwired directly into our brains. One area that assists in this process is the right supramarginal gyrus, which helps us to distinguish our own emotional state